everybody, welcome along to PSGL Season 33, round number 7 here at the Shanghai International Circuit for the Chinese Grand Prix, and we bring you the action for the top tier on PlayStation. My name is Jess Ball, and joining me once again in the commentary box, as he did all season, it is of course Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to what could be a very interesting race tonight after a week's break for myself. So, yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a really interesting race around a track that we've not seen really in a while in PSGL recent seasons. So, yeah, a lot to look forward to tonight.
Yes, it is, and it is a track, obviously, that not many people have put in a lot of practice in as well. It's not been done in many leagues as well, so I think it could be a level playing field as well, because the last time we raced here was a few seasons ago on the F1 2021 game. But yeah, Max was back on winning form last week in Baku. That's where we were last week. He got pole, and then he was able to take the win also, which was great to see. He was back to winning ways after him not scoring wins in the last 3 rounds. So and he was very comfortable that he wanted to get the win, and he did. So his confidence really justified. Tom originally got second place, but he received a penalty from the stewards by gaining an unfair advantage because he was able to go through other cars at the start, and he also is awarded a warning for not cooperating with the stewards with no footage provided. So that jumped him down to 4th in the Baku results, pushed Kian up. Kian is now a reserve driver because he's concentrating solely on challenges, which starts this week, I believe. So good luck to him. And Jerome got his first podium of the season as well. He benefited obviously from Tom's 5-second penalty. He finished 4th before penalties, but after penalties he finished in 3rd place, bumps him up to near the top 10 at the standings as well. So yes, a bit unfortunate for Tom, but he doesn't seem too phased about the penalty, so surely he can bounce back up. And because of those decent results from Tom in the last few races, he's second in the championship.
Yeah, Tom's second in the championship now, and I think just by Tom's standards, he's had such a rough kind of couple of seasons up till now, really, hasn't he, in PSF1, that I think he's kind of happy that he's just on a solid run of form, even if he did get that penalty. So yeah, I think it's not over yet for Tom. Of course, 20-point gap is more than a race win in PSGL F1, but we've seen it go up and down all season long. Of course, Max had a massive lead off the first couple of rounds and then kind of fell away. Marcos was really consistent at the start. He seems to have dropped off a little bit as of recent rounds, so anything can change for Tom, and we know what he's like. In theory, you would say the track that we're racing at tonight, of course, which is China, you would say should, in theory, suit Tom a lot more than Baku did. So I would expect Tom to be right back fighting at the front once again.
Yes, indeed. He's coasting on 44 points, 20 points behind Max with 64 points. Marcos in 3rd on 38. He only scored 2 points last week. Kian, even though he's a reserve now, he's on 36 points. Nando, even though not scoring many points in the last few rounds, he's still in 5th on 27. Fabi's on 26 after not scoring many points last week. Kazidal was very unlucky. He had an unfortunate DNF, which caused one of the safety cars. He's on 19. Frankie's on 18. Aurelian's on 16. And we got Stefano, Harry F. Stefano again. Marlon, Jerome, Volakongan, Namaya, who's right down the bottom. Jensen, unfortunately, did not have a good race last time out. He got 0 points. Rowan had a DNF. And Louis managed to get some decent points as well as reserve. Managed to score 4 points, but he did get a time penalty as well, so he got demoted a few places. But without further ado, we may as well get on to the circuit. Quite an overcast circuit, as you can see at the moment. And a little bit of fact about this track. First used in Formula 1 back in 2004, where we saw Michael Schumacher take the win there. I believe it was one of his final F1 victories, his 91st. Believe it or not, we do believe, obviously, the likes of Lewis Hamilton obviously beating that record ages ago, and Alonso Vizcarra finished on the podium back then as well. So it has 16 turns, 7 to the left, 9 to the right, 2 DRS zones as well. In particular, one that Tom's going on right about now as well, straight into the hairpin. So no DRS chicken tonight, but this is a track where the softs are not viable at all during the race. So we expect to see a lot of people going on a lot of runs during this qualifying session, as Tom's going through now. He's going up to the final corner. 132.2 for the Ferrari man.
Yeah, 32 to the top of the timesheets, but Desso goes about nearly 2/10 of a second faster in the Haas. He crosses the line. Desso, one who's had a really weird championship, hasn't he? He's been fast all season long. He's been points-worthy driving, points-worthy pace all season long, but he's only scored 3 points this season, and that was all at the first round. Since then, he's not scored, which is really bizarre considering the qualifying performances and the pace he's put in. As Volokonga now goes to the top of the timesheets and is the first driver into the 31s. And I think we're going to see this a bit. I think we're going to see a little bit more spread than we have seen potentially at other tracks, just plain and simply because we don't race China. China's not a track that we see in real life. It hasn't been in real life, everyone, since 2019. It's not a common track you'll see on every league calendar because of that as well. So it's not a track that these people have driven a lot on. So there's some people in this field, but based on their age, who may never have driven the Chinese circuit until this week. So it's going to be an interesting one. But China's always a great race, isn't it? It's always about it always used to be about tire management. I'm sure it still is about tire temperature management. It's always great racing in real life, great racing in league racing in the past as well. It's a fun circuit to watch and a fun circuit to drive. I'd say one of the early Herman Tilke gems before all the street circuits started coming into play in the 2010s.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're wondering who's replacing Kian tonight full time, it's more Borak, who just comes across the line in the top of the time sheet at the moment, who managed to do quite well in the race last week on debut as well, scored 3 points, came up from F3, believe it or not. He's still known as the Swiss Pads goat, but he's now known for doing the Charles Leclerc meme about I am stupid. So there we go, crashing the castle section earlier on. But at least he's set a competitive lap time at the moment, so he's going to go into the pits very shortly as well. Stefano is about to start. I have to say, both of the McLarens not doing too well in this session so far, because Izzle really needs to step up a gear after a few poor showings in this championship, and he's only scored 19 points. And I have to say, a lot of people not scoring many points. This championship is just so close. We were speaking about this earlier on in the season. There's only a few drivers that have been showing some consistency at the moment. We had Tom that's had 1 DNF. We had Marcos that's had 2 DNFs. Max has had no DNFs, and the only time he's not been on the podium, he's still managed to score points, and he's quite a way ahead of the rest of the field. So, yes, I think consistency is key in this championship, and we're over half season distance at the moment. We've got 5 races to go, including this one. A lot of people would really need to step it up if they want to beat Max tonight. At the moment, he's currently sitting in P2 as well. Frankie doing very well at the moment in qualifying, P3 as well. He's a bit of an unknown. There's some races where he shows some sign of brilliance, where there's most races where he hasn't performed well at all. Again, another driver that DNF'd last time out as well, so maybe this could be the track to redeem himself. Well, he's going to the third right now, so maybe that could be the case.
Definitely could be the case here. Other drivers a bit further up in the first ones. Volokonga, not typically strong in qualifying, but up there at the moment. He's currently 16th in the standings, hasn't scored since that round in Austria, so he's looking for a bit of a redemption in the Red Bull, so not bad start for him as well. And of course, Harry was the pole sitter back in Bahrain, of course. He had a brilliant qualifying and a really solid race there, and that's the only time really he's had a properly strong race, finished 3rd in that race. But other than that, he's not finished higher than I think he's finished in the points one other time in Austria. Every other time he's not finished in the points, or his DNF completely. So Harry's had a bit of an up and down season. So maybe he's looking at China as a track that he seems to like potentially going into tonight. It's going to be an interesting one. And you're talking about championship and how we've kind of said a lack of consistency from pretty much everybody. Up until Austria, you could have said, despite the DNF, Marcos was the most consistent. But in recent rounds, that consistency in pace we've seen for Marcos seems to have just kind of disappeared for some random reason. We're not really sure why. Don't think he's had any new equipment or anything, but he was in the top 2 in all of the first 4 qualifying sessions, and then we get to Bahrain and Baku and he's seemingly nowhere in pace and having incidents at the back of the field. So yeah, really bizarre run of form recently for Marcos. He definitely looked the most consistent in terms of pace, but that's kind of just disappeared. And Max now leading the championships by 20 points, and he is the only one to have scored points in every race this season now. So that just goes to show that even with a short season, it's all about consistency, isn't it? You don't have to be winning every race. You just have to be consistently in the points and not making mistakes. And so far, even when Max has had his bad rounds, like he did in Paul Ricard, he's still picking up decent points.
Yeah, it is. I think the minimum, obviously, he scored was 3 points, like I was saying earlier as well. And Max when I was speaking to him earlier as well, he seemed a bit more confident compared to obviously the other drivers around him. Markados, I was speaking to earlier on, he doesn't like this track whatsoever, and he was hoping that to get points is a miracle, and he felt very good, Max, in the first couple of rounds as well. And despite Max hating this track, he's currently sitting near the front. So he said that in the first round he doesn't like particular tracks, and he still wins. So I'm still predicting that he would go on and win this race as well, with 8 minutes and 47 seconds still to go in the timing sheet at the moment. So we'll look at who's faster in what sector at the moment. We've got Borak, who's currently fast in the first set to 21.1. And we have got Max, who's currently fast in the middle set to 27.5. And Markados is fastest in the final set with a 36.0. So no one is fastest in all the sectors right now, which I think shows that they have pretty much a weaker part of the track for everybody at the moment, which is very interesting to see at the moment. So I'll keep an eye on these drivers as they just about to carry on with their runs at the moment in the timing sheets at the moment. We got, I believe, who's on the run at the moment. There's quite a lot of people setting personal best. Volakongan set personal best set to 1:21.4.199, but he didn't improve in the middle sector. Jensen is purple in the middle set to 27.467, so he could be up there to improve this time. But Volakongan heading towards turn 14 as Deso goes to top of the timing sheets, and by not saying purple in anything, but he's gone green in every sector. But Volakongan, the F2 champion from last season, can he redeem himself? Up to the line he goes, and it's going to be a 1:31.757, and he just got purple in the final sector, which was great to see as well. A few more people heading towards the final corner. I believe it's one of the Williams drivers, or I think it must have been gone. I must have been gone somewhere, but I'm trying to find someone who just come across the line. But Jensen, 1:31.5. He found a few attempts for his final run. He did 1:31.7 a minute ago. Now he's done a 1:31.5. So, but I think his purple final sector has just been beaten as well. Marlon has invalidated, unfortunately, and so is Jerome. So they're not able to improve just a little bit. But we'll see if anyone else can improve as Aurelian now goes faster. So the track is starting to evolve.
Yeah, it definitely is starting to evolve, and people are just starting to get used to it. Kazizel's on a good lap at the moment as well. Currently no time on the board, but he's got a good middle sector in that McLaren. More drivers to the line. Rowan crosses line. P8 in the AlphaTauri. Here comes Kazizel around the final corner and up towards the line. He crosses the line. Now he goes fastest on a 31.4. So a good lap from Kazizel there to the top of the timesheets. And it's a Shazoo. There we go. Missed out a syllable there. It's a Shazoo 1-2-3 lockout at the moment. They're doing really well in this session. And this is like I said, this is one of those tracks where you're going to see those drivers that have had more experience of China on previous games that will come to the forefront. We know drivers like Jensen and Kazizel have had a lot of experience on tracks like China in the past. So definitely look to them to be right at the front, as you would expect. And this is definitely a driver's track, isn't it? This is a track of compromise in terms of your setup. Do you go for the downforce for the first and second parts of the lap, or do you sacrifice a little bit of downforce to get the straight line speed down that 1.1 kilometre back straight? It's such a long straight in such a important DRS zone. It's crucial. You need a car that's decent enough in a straight line to fight. If you're too slow in a straight line and not getting enough in the middle part of the lap, you are going to be a sitting duck. So it's hard to find the compromise, and that's why you see a lot of drivers hate this track and some drivers like this track. I'm one of those drivers in the past that used to love driving this track. It is definitely one of those ones where management in the race comes to forefront rather than being 100% all the time. You have to kind of manage yourself in the race distance around here, which is the kind of racing I enjoy. So more drivers coming into their lap time, saying Kazizel's still fastest, but Max has gone back up into the front row in second. Tom up to third now as well. Frankie's gone up to sixth in the other Alfa Romeo. So more drivers coming in. Stefano's coming to P7 as well in the other McLaren. So not a bad showing in qualifying so far from McLaren. Still some drivers out at the back of the field yet to set really representative times. Nando's still not got a representative time on the board. Neither really has Rick, and Namaya's on a lap at the moment, but he's already 4 tenths down in the first sector, so he's backed off on his second run. He's not got a proper timing on the board either. Markados and Fabi, 2 drivers who've been strong in qualifying all season long. Again, not really anywhere at the moment in this qualifying session, down 15th and 16th. Markados has just started their third run, I think, in this qualifying session, potentially their last one. They've gone very early for their last run.
Yeah, it looks like it, isn't it? And comparing with the sector times compared to everybody else, Markados seems to be very, very good in the first sector, but he seems to struggle on every other part of the lap as well. And you were talking about straight line speed as well. The middle sector and the final sector has a lot of straight line speed, obviously, compared to everything else right now. So I think I can strongly predict that obviously the ones that have set up straight best suited to the corners will have a very good first sector, but the ones that have a good final sector will be the ones that are tailored to the straights a little bit as well. And usually when I race around this track, I have a car which is, I think, like a boat, to be honest, believe it or not, which is to be expected, not gonna lie, but we will see what happens. There's a lot of drivers are currently in the pits right now. Marcos is not one of them. He's on a lap. He didn't set personal best in the first sector, but he set 27.5 in the middle sector. That's 2 tenths slower than Kazidl currently, so he needs to find a few more tenths to go even quicker. He even lost a bit of time in the first sector to Kazidl as well, so he's lost about 7 tenths overall. So I don't think it will be a massive improvement for Marcos as he goes into the pits anyway, which is unsurprising. Everyone's going to go into the pits. We're going to be in a little bit of a limbo situation at the moment, unless people are going to go again. And by the way, Tom earlier on has set fastest final sector, Kazidl fastest in the middle, and I can't remember who got fast in the first sector in their second run. So we'll see who's improving, but we got Volokongan and Aurelian. They're going to be out on circuit to finish off their runs, their final runs of qualifying. They're going to be out of sync with everybody else, but at least I'll get some clear air and going again. And I have to say, some difficult parts of the track, turn 6 as well. In time trial, it can be very misleading that you can go flat out, but when you do it in practice and potentially in multiplayer mode, you can't. You have to really use that throttle management to make sure that you do not go flat out, because otherwise, like me, once I do sometimes, it can send yourself into a spin. So yeah, we've got to keep an eye on these drivers for that. But everyone is out on circuit, apart from Borat, Marcos, and Maya. And I think that's it, actually. So let us know your predictions in the chat. On the UP is going to get pole position, the top 6, separated by less than a tenth of a second, which just shows how close PSF1 is at the moment. A few people won't be practicing that much for China, because, as I mentioned earlier, this week is the start of the Challenger Series, and quite a lot of these drivers on this grid are in the Challengers event to qualify for F1 Esports. So I wish him the best of luck for that. But there's going to be drivers like, obviously, Max, who's not in the Challenger Series because he's too young, who could take advantage of that. And I think there's a few other people not in Challengers either that will take advantage of that too. But Volokongan just about to start his final run of the session. He's got to find about 4 attempts to get onto at least the front row.
Yeah, you definitely got to say that pole's probably going to be a 0.3, potentially a 0.2 if someone can nail their laps. So Volokongan's got to find quite a bit of time to be right at the front of the field. And yeah, talking about spinning potentially in the middle sector, that is a real bull bear for the circuit, isn't it? Especially that turn number 7. If you touch the curb on the inside too much, you're going to spin almost instantly. It is a really vicious curb, and this is one of those rare tracks on the calendar where it isn't front limited or rear limited. It is just limited on tyres all the way around, because there's so many long corners which wear out the front tyres, and then there's so many traction zones through corners that wear out the rear tyres. So the tyres are going to be hot front and rear all the way around the track. So there's points in the track, like that middle part of the lap in those S sections, where you do have to compromise on the throttle. Volokongan, though, not compromising at all. He's had a brilliant middle sector. He's 3 tenths up on his personal best at the moment. He kind of matched his personal best in the first sector, but found 3 tenths in the middle part. So we'll see if he can find anything in the final sector. Shortest run there through the banked turn as he tries to get down the back straight as quick as possible. Down this long kilometre back straight. DRS is shortened down that back straight to what it has been in previous seasons on this game as he heads towards the hairpin. Obviously famous for the contact between Verstappen and Vettel in 2018 as he comes out of the hairpin into what is, well, it says there's a corner on the track map. It is not, as he heads into the final corner. So easy to take too much curb on the inside or run wide and invalidate, but Volokongan doesn't. He crosses the line, but he lost a bit of time in that final sector and he ends up P4. Without that mistake, that could have been potentially a front row start for Volokongan.
Yeah, that could have been as well. Jensen up to the line could only manage 5th, but he was personal best in all sectors. We've got Kazidl, that's retired from the session. So he must have binned it somewhere, or he wasn't that confident at the time being. But the next few people to cross the line will be, I think, Harry. He comes up to the line. He can only manage 9th. Then we got Stefano, one of the Stefanos. up to the line, can only manage 14th. We got Jerome, who was up next, only 16th. Deso, what can he do? Only 10th position for him. We got Rowan up to the line as well, only 12th. Max, who's coming towards the hairpin at the moment. He is improving just a little bit, but not as much as the guys around him already. And in P2, that is great to see. Can Max get provisional pole position here at the Chinese Grand Prix? No, he can't. 131.5 for him. He lost out in the final sector. And Shizu Tom, the man who said to me that he wasn't going to do any practice at all due to him being in part of challenges, well, he's just fastest at the moment, and he wasn't even purple in all 3 sectors. Like I said, consistency is key. More Borak, who scored some points last week, he's coming up to the line now. He could only manage in 14th position as well. So that is it. I believe he invalidated in the final corner. Yes, he did. So there we go. So Tom is on pole position. I'll tell you the fastest first, second and mid-final sectors for everybody. It was Jensen in the first, 24.0. Kazidal in the second, 27.3. And Aurelian in the third, 39.829. And Tom was not that far, to be honest. A few hammers in between separates Aurelian and Tom to get the fastest sector overall. But I'm sure Tom won't mind that because Tom's got pole position.
Yeah, and I think that kind of proves as well the point about this being a track of compromise on setup, because Tom wasn't fast in either 3 parts of the circuit. He wasn't purple in any of the sectors, but he managed to get the full lap together, whereas you see drivers like Jensen fast in the first sector but not particularly fast at the end of the lap suggests he's got more downforce on that car, and the opposite for Aurelian, who wasn't particularly fast in the first but was great in the final. So yeah, Tom definitely got a compromise on setup, but it has worked very nicely in qualifying, because this is the best qualifying in a long time as well for him, and it's just 1, 2, 3 as it was early in the session.
Yes, we'll go through your order quickly before we go through our sponsors. We've got Tom, Kazidal, Aurelian, Mac, Fuller, Congan, Jensen, Frankie, Stefano, Harry and Deso, your top 10. Now we got Fabi, Rowan, Nando, Morbarak, Stefano, Marlon, Jerome, Marcos, Namaya and Rick. But before we go to the main action, let's have a quick word for the first time from our title sponsor, GT Omega. We will see you in just under 30 seconds. Welcome back, everybody, to PSGL PSF1, round number 7, and this is the Shanghai International Circuit. It has 2 DRS zones and it has 16 corners, to name a few. What a nice circuit that the drivers are going to be facing today. And look at the weather that the drivers will be faced with today, at the start of the race at least. Intermediate conditions, and I did say to Ada before the stream, let's hope that there's going to be no rain, and guess what, there's rain. But I'm kind of relieved it's not full wet conditions, because that could have been a worse scenario. But our hopes are here in the commentary box, as we hope it's going to be a changeable conditions race. But again, we will have to wait and see. You never know, things can change at a drop of a hat. But we've got 20 seconds left to go. And by the way, if you want to check out our sponsor, GT Omega, by the way, you can get 5% off if you use the code PSGL. Link is in the description, and more information can be found using the command !GT Omega. So, without further ado, let's get started with this race. The 5 red lights are about to come on your screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And we are underway. Let's see, he has a great start out of Tom and Aurelian then. Tom's had a good start, Kazidal had a bad start. Heading towards turn number 1, Kazidal had a lightning getaway though. He's passed Tom into turn 1 as they go through the technical part of the circuit. Heading towards turn 2 and 3. They all managed to get through unscathed. The visibility is going to be very hard heading towards turn 4. Rick has dropped down a few positions as well, down into 20th spot, but surprisingly, they seem to be all right as they head towards turn 5 and 6. As all Harry has spun and it's collected a few drivers with him. There's a few people that lost their end plates as well. Because of it, one of them, Mercedes has dropped position. I think it was Fabi, has dropped down into 15th place. I think a lot of people are compromising their quali setup, but not really using it for the race, and that's really showing for some people. But we're starting to get some tyre penalties shown. But Aurelian, what a start from him. He overtook Tom into turn 1. Tom had the best getaway, but Aurelian was very, very keen to get past Tom.
Yeah, lovely stuff from Aurelian off the start. Really great start, because Zizzle didn't really move off the line. He just kind of bogged down and couldn't go anywhere. And Max had a brilliant start from the second row, but just couldn't quite do anything with it. He kind of got boxed in by the Shizou pair, by the Shizou trio at the front of the field. So he's fourth. Good start from Frankie as well. When the other Alfa Romeo, he's up to P5. Bad start for Volokongan, down 3 places on the opening lap. He got hung out to dry on the outside. As there's contact at the back of the field, that's one of the Williams that spun coming off the turn number 13. That is Harry that's gone for another spin. He's got damage to his front wing. I think another driver that had damage as well was Marlon. So again, Marlon caught up in a first lap incident this season. He has had no luck on opening laps this season, as Mubarak trying to get past Rowan, and does so fairly easily down at the hairpin. Mubarak through and into 10th. He's got a 5-second penalty though for overtaking off the track and gaining an advantage. So keep an eye out for that one later on in the pit stop phase when he has to serve that penalty. But he's straight on the back of his teammate Desso once again. And now we get to see, has anybody put a wet setup on to try and help themselves in the early stages of this race? It's definitely looking like Mubarak's got something that's suited to the wet, because he is flying up to the back of his teammate. He has got great pace on this opening stage of this race, trying to work his way forwards, but just kind of stuck at the moment, down in 10th place, trying to get the run down towards the hairpin of turn number 6, but just can't get the power down, and he's not going to be able to be late enough on the brakes. He has a look, he thinks about it from that far back, but not quite close enough. It's pretty close throughout the field at the moment, but great start for Mubarak, and great start as well for Marcos, up 6 places in the back of the field. Those are our 2 biggest movers.
Yep, they have so far as well. Avoid the carnage in front of them as well. And like I said earlier, experience does help with some of these drivers as well. And I have checked the weather, and it's going to be raining for the entire race. And I believe it's going to be inters for the entire race. So there could be some drivers, like we saw in USA quite a few seasons ago, where they could be on inters for the entire race. Or we could see people that could do maybe a 1-stop or even 2-stop as well. It could be varying strategies, and that's what we would like to see. We could see people be brave and stay on inters for the whole of it, but they would lose a lot of grip. I have to say, China is a track where it is not kind on tyres at all, so ideally you need to pit at least once, even though you don't have to at the moment. Jensen's had a good race so far as well, even though he's lost 1 position, but he's still in 7th position, and he had a good start last week in Baku, but he got very unlucky, so he just got to keep focused on what the task in front of him as well, and just pretty much defend for his life once we go to the opening stages. No DRS enabled, obviously, in these wet conditions, so they're going to be relying on the toe on the back straight, really, and maybe into turn 10 as well, where we could see people potentially go for moves as well. But I'm quite surprised that they're all still close together in the wet conditions, which I think strongly suggests they could have similar setups. As Rowan and Desso having a battle, I think, in towards turn 4 and 5. We can see Rowan trying to get the cut back, head towards turn number 6. Is he going to go left or right? He's going to go left and try and go the long way around. A little bit of contact between the pair of them as well, but Desso tries to go defensive there, but works to perfection. But this is going to be very brave from Rowan if he makes the move in towards turn number 7, trying to go side by side there. But I think he's going to do it towards turn number 9. He almost goes off the track. Marcados could have taken advantage of that as well, heading towards turn 9 and 10 now. A little bit of a lock-up from the drivers behind them as well. We'll see Marcados gain the straight line speed as well. This could be 3 wide here as they head towards turn 11, 12 and 13. We've got Jerome, last week's podium sitter, in this as well. This is all change here in this field as well. They've changed positions in the midfield, left, right and centre, and it's just allowing the guys up front just to pull away from the rest of the field. But Desso's absolutely loving life because Rowan and Marcados keep squabbling. Let's see what Jerome can do a little bit further behind. So I think Marcados could be the next person to go for the move. Can he do it? No, not quite. He stays behind, but a lot of squabbling between the mid-pack, it seems.
Yeah, a lot of squabbling, and they're starting to squabble at the front of the field as well. Max tried to move on Kazizel down into the turn 14 hairpin, but wasn't close enough, had to go the long way round and couldn't get the traction on the exit at the same time as well. Stefano's trying to get past Frankie here. Frankie's losing pace with the top 4 immediately now, and Stefano's trying to find a way through. This is one of those tracks, like you mentioned earlier on, with the potential nose stop if it's going to go inters all the way through. This is one of those tracks where the nose stop is most commonly unlikely because of how hard it is on the tyres. If someone does want to go for that strategy, it will be a bold move, trying to take these tyres the whole distance around China. So are some of these drivers pushing now, knowing they're going to stop again, or are some of them holding back, knowing that they're not going to stop and they're going to try and save the time by not going for a pit stop? It'll be very interesting to see, but we're already seeing drivers kind of losing the rear of the car through a lot of these long radius corners. I think the problem for these drivers is that it's not actually raining that heavily. It's closer to dry conditions than it is to fully intermediate, maybe full wet conditions. So the track is going to be, these inters are going to be screaming. They're going to get a lot of heat into them, and it's going to be difficult to get the heat out of them again if you need to cool them off. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one going forwards in this race to see who is holding back a little bit or who was going for it straight away. But you can see on board with Max through turn 13, the rear of the car just wants to step out every time he even thinks about putting the power down. He is not full throttle until he's on the straight line. That is how treacherous it is in these wet conditions. Max not quite close enough this time around. One person who is Desso, who's going to repass Mubarak down the back straight. He got overtaken a couple of laps ago by his teammate, but he's back past him again. But Mubarak straight in the tow and is trying to come back at his teammate as they head down towards turn 14. He's going to have to go the long way round. Can he make his way all the way around the outside of his teammate? Desso is going to get pinched on the inside, but a great exit from Mubarak coming out of turn number 15, and he should regain the place. Lovely driving between the two Haas cars. He's back up into 9th as Mubarak. Desso back down into 10th, and Rowan just waiting in the wings, hoping for a mistake from one of the Haas cars.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it, with the two Haas cars working together, but they can't afford to keep squabbling too much because Rowan, like he's saying, can overtake them, or maybe Markados as well. But we're watching Rowan, I think, maybe prove my theory right, as he almost got the car unsettled with that curb there. You don't want to hit the curb too much there. I've done that once, and guess what? Boom. An absolute spinneroonie for me. I was sent to Narnia, and in practice I was in the wall. So Rowan does not want to do that. As Stefano and Namaya going side by side towards turn number 6, and Namaya doing a brilliant job to make sure Stefano does not get the move done, or actually keep the move. So Namaya is staying in, well, Namaya is up to 16th now. Stefano's dropped down to 17th position, and they're all roughly around about the same ERS. 37% for Namaya, 49% for Stefano, and this is all the battle for 16th place. Don't forget, in PSGL, the top 10 score points, and it's not like normal F1. First place gets 16 points. It is quite a closer point spread compared to Formula 1, because we want the championship to be this close as well. And with the lack of DRS, it's just inviting more dirty air to come off the cars, unfortunately, as the Maya goes for a move once again on Fabi. And you can tell that the Maya seems to be a bit more comfortable on the throttle heading towards turn 13 compared to the other drivers, but Fabi more comfortable on the straight, as you can see right now. Then heading towards the hairpin at turn 14, down the inside goes the Maya. He covers off Fabi. Fabi was almost going to get the move there, but the Maya was like, no thank you, you're not having that position, I'm keeping that P15. So the Maya stays in P15 at this moment in time. Yellow flag, we got, I think it's Marlon has gone off in the background, so he's had a little bit of a spin in a turn 13. Aurelian still leads, by the way, 7/10 of a second, separating between himself and Tom. We haven't seen much of a good showing from him since round number 1 in Spain as well, but we've seen that with Tom for the last few seasons, so maybe this could be Aurelian's day to show the form that he had in Spain in round number 1 as well. And don't forget, some of these guys, like we were saying, may not put enough practice in due to challenges. There may be some people that may not worry about challenges too much and maybe putting a lot more practice on PSGL, and it's showing for some people. Aurelian definitely increasing that gap. He's loving those wet conditions right now. Tom doing a solid job, to be fair. He's looking about consistency at the moment, because all he cares about is being ahead of Max in the championship, as Marlon has retired in the pits, and that makes it, I believe, a fifth race in a row where he's not going to score any points.
Yeah, been a rough season so far for Marlon. Apart from that highlight in Singapore, it's been a poor season, sadly, for Marlon. He's not really enjoyed this season so far, sadly. And yeah, back to what you were saying about Tom doing exactly what he needs, which is just staying ahead of Max at this point in the race. He doesn't need to take any risks this early on. He needs to beat Max, and that's his only focus. And at the moment, he's doing that comfortably at the moment. As Desso coming back at his teammate once again. These Haas cars are inseparable on pace. They can't seem to decide which one wants to be in front or not, as Mubarak sends it deep on the brakes into 14, but gets it stopped, and he still holds on to the place, but he is starting to hold the two Haas cars up. Volokongan is getting away in front in P8 and becoming a little bit, is detaching himself from this pack behind. One driver as well who's starting to work their way forwards is Uron. He managed to get a move done on Markados on the previous lap. He's up to 12th, and he is right on the back of this fight between the two Hasses and Rowan, trying to see if he can work his way into the points after a lowly qualifying. And also Namaya is proving the the benefits and although the disadvantages of running a wet setup, because he has got great pace in the middle part of the lap, but the second he gets to the back straight, he is a sitting duck and he can't do anything. So unfortunately for Nemaya, he's got to do all of his overtakes in the middle part of the lap, and at a place like China, that is easier said than done, especially in the wet conditions. I think Nemaya is hoping that people start pitting soon so he can get some fresh air and really use that wet setup to get himself a bit further forward in this race, because that's the only way that setup is going to work, is if he's in clean air.
Yeah, I think so as well, because with dirty air, like I was saying around it is horrible. There's going to be a lot of spray coming out of the cars, and you want to be in clear ASAP, so maybe pitting could be the best option for some drivers as well, and who knows, there could be a safety car in our midst as well. So we've got Max that we're riding on board with at the moment, who is lighting the timing screens of light at the moment in the middle sector. 31.3 was his fastest middle sector at the moment, but that equally gets beat by Harry, who's just gone a few tenths quicker, but he's on fresher tyres at the moment. Actually, no, Harry's not on fresher tyres right now, but Tom's setting the fastest lap overall. That may not mean that he's quicker consistently. You've got to be consistent over a race pace rather than just set one lap that is quick but then not be quick throughout the rest of this race. But as you can see, we're pretty much on lap 8 then, and we can see Frankie has lost a bit of time to his teammate, so I think he's struggling a little bit compared to his teammate. And then Morborak setting the fastest lap of this race. Don't forget Morborak got a 5-second penalty, which could get removed. I think he gained 1 place for corner cutting, I think, but it will be debating when it gets removed, so he will have to serve it in the pit lane. Meanwhile, Jerome and Rowan, you were saying that they were trying to get involved in the battle earlier, but you were right here, heading towards turn number 4 then. Down the inside goes the AlphaTauri car. We got Jerome trying to cover off as well on the right-hand side, heading towards through 5, heading towards turn 6 now, into 4th gear goes Jerome. Jerome keeps that position in 11th spot, and at this rate he could get 10th place, but for how much longer? Jerome's going to try and get the move in towards turn number 7. That could be very brave if he can make the move sit there. He could try and go around the outside as well, heading towards turn 8 and 9 as well. Jerome is pretty much stopping Rowan from getting that position, it seems like. Absolutely incredible racing from all these drivers so far. I do not know how they managed to go side by side and not crash, but that just shows they put the practice a little bit. It's not much rain compared to obviously what we saw earlier, but it might just be my game playing up as well. And we have a question in the chat that's saying, is Morborak on controller? Yes, he is. I believe he's the only driver on this grid who has controller. I think everybody else is using a wheel, so there you go. Hopefully that answers your question. But still, no major moves from Jerome and Rowan up front as well. It looks like the leaders are being a bit patient right now. Oh no, Kazizzle! As I was saying that, commentator's curse from Jess, and Kazizzle has just lost it, final corner.
That is such a shame for Kazizzle. He was clearly sitting back from the top 2, saving a bit of ERS, but yeah, binned out of the final corner. He's potentially going to fall behind Deso here. He doesn't want to get back into it too much because those tyres might be a bit hot. He's managed to hold on to 9th place. He's still in the points, but yeah, that is such a shame for Kazizzle. He was really in the fight for a podium, potentially a win, but yeah, that has gone out the window now with that spin. That is such a shame for Kazizzle. That could have been his best showing in a long time for the McLaren driver, but unfortunately back down at the bottom end of the top 10 now. And I think he's had a wheel problem because he's gone straight off at turn number 5.
Yeah,
that car
I think it's a wheel problem. Yeah. I think I will.
Yeah, he just went straight on at turn 5. He went to turn into the corner and then nothing happened. So clearly some
10-second penalty. Let's look at his brake and throttle inputs.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on there. I think he's also damaged his front wing now. So I think for Kazizzle, that's potentially some sort of equipment error on his side of things. And if that is the case, if that's what caused him to spin in the first place coming out the final corner, that is horrible luck for Kazizzle, unfortunately, in such a good position. So I think potentially we may be seeing Kazizzle retire from the race here if that is the case. That is such a shame for the McLaren driver, who's had a bit of a torrid season so far by his standards. But yeah, another driver fallen by the wayside. But what that has done is given his Shizou teammates in Aurelian and Tom a little bit of breathing space now over Max. And interestingly, now that Max is in clean air, he's actually being re-caught ever so slightly by Frankie and Stefano. So I don't know whether they've pushed quite early on those intermediate tyres and they're starting to pay the price for it, and Frankie and Stefano have just held back a little bit and starting to work their way forwards. But it definitely seems like the top 3, they were pulling away in the early phases. It's stagnated, and now all of a sudden Frankie is just starting to edge a little bit closer back towards the podium sitters.
Yeah, I think I think he was just saving his tyres, because I think, and we know that the tyres don't last a chunk around here, so maybe he may be a little bit under pressure, but I think you can tell he's saving, because Stefano's now on the back of him right now, and so is Jensen, and because it all has retired in the pit lane, and I think hopefully we can have confirmation in the chat on whether it was a wheel issue or something like that. Let's hope it's fixed for challenges, because I believe he's taking part in challenges, so we're praying to the wheel gods that it gets fixed, but it may be something different. I don't know, it may just be another issue that he has, or it may be a game issue. I'm not entirely sure on that one, or maybe he couldn't see. We don't know. All questions remain to be answered at the time being, but because he won't be scoring any points like we saw last time out as well. So he's on a DNF streak, which is a bit of a shame right now. But luckily, there's no safety car for these drivers. Aurelian still leads, though, by 6 tenths over Tom. Max in third, Frankie in fourth. It's going to be good for Alfa Romeo in terms of constructors right now. They're currently leading the constructors by 18 points over Mercedes. We've got Ferrari in third on 49 points. We've got Aston Martin in fourth on 43. And then it's Haas, McLaren, Alpine, Williams. And we can see, I believe there's a battle going for quite a few positions in the top 6 at the moment. It's Stefano under pressure from... actually, no, Stefano trying to pressure Frankie into a mistake, heading towards the final corner. And it looks like Stefano couldn't get the move done as the other Stefano is hanging about with Fabi at the time being. 4P15, I believe it's in the hairpin of turn 14. But you can see Stefano trying to go the long way round through 3. You can see, though, Frankie closed the door very, very nicely indeed through 4. So that's what's helping him here at the moment. You can't really tell who has the best setup, because I think Stefano has a setup which is very balanced. But you can't really tell with Frankie which setup is best for him. He may not have the best setup at all, we don't know. Or maybe he's just saving his tyres a little bit. But meanwhile, back up front, Tom suddenly gained a bit more time already, and all of a sudden, 4 tenths is the gap.
Yeah, just starting to put a little bit of pressure now. I think now that Max is directly behind him, I think Tom is just starting to think about when he can pounce potentially to take the lead away from his Shizou teammate, and whether he can do that or not. So, yeah, but they're still pulling away. The pair of them are still pulling away from Max now. So Max starting to struggle just a little bit at this point in the race. From what I'm seeing on board with the battle between Frankie and Stefano, Frankie has clearly got a car that is much more in tune with the middle part of the lap. It is really good in the downforce, but in a straight line. Always Fabi's gone off the road in the turn 9 and 10 sequence. That is him off the road. No front wing on that car. He is well off the road as well. So that was a big mistake from him. He's been struggling all race long. Yeah, back to the fight for fourth. Stefano is a lot faster in a straight line at the moment behind the Alfa Romeo. So if he can get within maybe 3 tenths of a second coming out of turn 13, Stefano could easily pass Frankie down the back straight and get the move done. So yeah, Frankie much better, much more downforce on that Alfa Romeo than there is on the McLaren. But Stefano with the less downforce doing a brilliant job at the moment in this point of the race. And Frankie's in. Okay, that is bold. End of lap 11. Frankie is into the pit lane. So Frankie's clearly decided that set of inters is not doing a full race distance. Here's where the split starts to happen. Do you go for the pit stop, the early pit stop, or do you stay out and try and take the tyres to the end? It's like we said, isn't it? It's one of those tracks where if you do stay out to the end, your tyres are going to be absolutely ruined by the end because this track is so hard on tyres. So I think Frankie's decided they're not going to get to the end in any relative state. He wants to pit now and get the benefit of the fresh tyres before anybody else can.
I have to say, that is not a bad move, but I would have done a split tyres. I would have been on those tyres for, I think I would say 13 laps and then come in, but Frankie potentially want to do it a lap or 2 earlier, which is fair enough. He potentially wants the undercut. He wants to be on the much warmer tyres compared to, obviously, everybody else early on as well. I think he's learned that, obviously, the overcut is less powerful in this game now. You have to... pretty much, there's people that have been on those tyres 1 lap older than you that overtake you because you're on colder tyres. So Frankie wants to be in that position right now. He's 17th at the moment, but still, he's not that far within this train as well. At the end of the day, Fabi, by the way, is another driver that's retired in the pit lane, so that makes it our 3rd retirement from this race. I believe 3 of them have retired in the pit lane now. Because of Frankie pitting, will that trigger Aurelian and Tom to come in? We'll have to wait and see as they come towards turn 14 and 15 now. So Aurelian, is he going to come in? Yes, he is. Tom comes in. I think everybody is going to come in. No, Stefano stays out. If it was one of the drivers I was expecting to come in, I was expecting it to be Stefano, but nope, he's not coming in. I thought it would have been a response to Frankie, because Frankie was his nearest rival, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. As Frankie at the moment, he is coming towards the back straight then, heading towards the final corner. So we'll see where he is in comparison to everybody else, compared to the likes of Tom and Max and Aurelian. So start, finish straight. Oh, it's going to be very tight between his teammate Max, but he gets past Max, ahead of Max already in terms of pit stops. And he's going to be on warmer tyres as well, so big bonus. Unfortunately, he didn't get past Tom and Aurelian, but he managed to undercut his teammates. So he is in a net third position, so it's a win-win. But he's going to be on all the tyres towards the end. Could struggle, but you can see he was definitely pushing on that lap to try and be quicker than everybody else. So we'll see what that does in relation to the Stefano. You can see that Frankie's producing sets, pretty much almost purple sectors, not quite purple sectors. He's done a 26.7 in the first sector compared to, obviously, I think Stefano's 26.9. So already Frankie's 2 tenths quicker than Stefano. Stefano's got to get a move on and go and pits, otherwise he's going to lose a chunk of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I still find that a bit of a baffling call for Frankie to pit before Max, because that's put Max now back down a position in this race in comparison to his championship rival, and that's only going to help Tom. So why Frankie felt the need to undercut his teammate, I'm not quite sure, considering Max is realistically the only one in this title fight at this point in the season. So yeah, kind of an interesting one. Maybe they think Frankie has a shot at catching Tom and Aurelian, but I'm not sure. We'll see. But Stefano stays out. See, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking someone like Stefano just sat behind Frankie in the early phases. He was clearly faster. The second he got past Frankie, immediately set the fastest lap of the race. So he was clearly holding something back behind that Alfa Romeo. He's now got clean air. He's not really anywhere in the championship standings. McLaren have not had a great season. He's not in the top 10 in the standings. In fact, Stefano's 13th at the moment in the standings, just behind the other Stefano. Why not stay out and take a risk? It's not been a great season. If this is an opportunity for Stefano potentially to win this race, why not stay out and take the risk? He's not going to cost himself anything championship-wise. Why not try it? And if there's a lot of people that stay out as well, he has got a big buffer of cars to help block those that are on fast tyres. Frankie set the fastest lap in the race on the previous lap of 41.6. That was still only 6 tenths faster than Stefano. That's not a big enough gap in comparison to Stefano to be able to catch him by the end of this race, as well as passing all of the cars in between. And that's, of course, if all of them stay out. So I think for Stefano, this is a golden opportunity. If everybody behind him stays out, Aurelian's got to pass 9 cars to still win this race with half race distance when we cross the line to go. So for Aurelian to win this one on those fresh tyres, that is going to be a hell of a tall order for the Alpine.
It's going to be tough, but we have seen Legend done it in the past, remember, who's got past quite a few cars. We've seen Legend do both situations. We saw Legend stay out in one race, I think it was USA, and he won the race. And then there was one race where he went into the pits on fresher tyres and he went on to win as well. So both scenarios on this game can happen, but it does depend on the driver's pace as well. And you can tell that he's really improving on his pace as well. So you might be right here, and I might be wrong with the fact that Stefano probably potentially could have done the right thing in terms of staying out. But in terms of warnings right now, he's on 2. So if he gets one more warning for Stefano, FER Stefano, he gets a time penalty. Other people on warnings, we've got Jerome, Nando and Stefano, the OP Stefano. Harry is on 1 warning as well as Rowan, and obviously we've got a few people that's got some time penalties as well to their name. We've got Harry, who just come into the pit as well. You can see people on fresher tyres setting purples, set to 1, 2 and 3 left, right and centre. I think it was Aurelian that set the fastest first sector, and Markados that just set the fastest final sector, and Frankie the fastest lap overall, 141.478. Gap now, he's increased a little bit between Stefano and Jensen, 4 seconds right now, so he's going to hope Stefano that everybody else stays out, which at the moment is looking likely at the moment, and he's not that far off, to be honest. The likes of obviously Jerome, and he's not far off the likes of Markados as well, who just set a personal best. Only a few thousand between them as well. So anything could happen in Formula 1, and it usually does. And I'm liking the mix of strategies, not going to lie, because we're about to see people that have been on those tyres for ages and then people that have just pitted onto them, we could just about see a difference on a really tyre demanding track, and we could see some mixed weather on the occasion, even though according to the weather forecast it could dry up. No, it could be wet for the entire race. It says rain all the time. And it's yellow flag. No, it's not yellow flag. It's just more Borat that's come into the pit. So he's going into the pits for some fresh set of the intermediate tyres. Someone else has gone off. That is Stefano.
Rick. That's Rick at the back.
That is Rick at the back. I thought it was a green car for some weird reason, but it's not. So Rick has gone off. He's down in last place. There's no way he's going to recover, unfortunately, but more Borak's now going to be on fresh inters, but he's going to drop way behind the rest of the field because everyone else around him has produced quicker lap time. So yeah, unfortunate for him. He should have stayed out personally, but I'm not the strategist. He is in for the long haul, and he may think that other people may get punches, but he's down in 50th. Not ideal for more Borak.
No, not ideal at all. He's obviously coming a lot later than the drivers around him, and he's also had to serve his 5-second penalty that he picked up early in the race. So he's now dropped down way out of the contention, really, for the points at this point in the race, you would assume. Looking on board as well with Tom. Tom's starting, I think, to get a little bit impatient with Aurelian. He's right on the back of the Alpine, almost thought about a move down into the hairpin. And the reason why Tom is getting maybe a little bit impatient is because Frankie is coming. Frankie is slowly but surely closing in on Aurelian and Tom in this fight for the net lead of those who have pitted in this race. They have dropped Max completely. Max just does not have the pace to keep up with the net top three in this race, including his teammate. His teammate is driving away from him at the moment. So Max at this point in the race seemingly struggling. He looked so strong at the very start, didn't he? He was all over the back of Cazizzo, looking like he was trying to fight to get early places early on. But now we've got to this point in the race, Max just doesn't seem to have a lot of pace. Stefano's in. That is interesting. I'm completely...
He should have stayed out.
Yeah, I'm baffled by that, by Stefano. If you were going to do this pit stop, you should have come in 4 laps earlier. This is too late. He's going to drop behind both Alfa Romeos, potentially right back to Rowan, and not really have much of a pace advantage. So, yeah, I don't really... Unless it was guaranteed that he was not going to make it to the end of that intermediate tyres, but at this point, it's too late in the race. Surely you've made your bed. You've got to lie in it.
Yeah, I kind of wish we would see the tyre wear for these drivers just to see the difference in tyre life. But obviously we can't see it now, unfortunately, because he's just pitted. So, yeah, a bit unfortunate. But to be fair, he's back where we predicted he was going to be. But instead of Frankie being in front of him, it is Max. So technically he was where he was before, but I think if he pitted at the same time as everybody else, he would have had a chance to fight against the likes of Max and Frankie. The gap's now 1.6 seconds, and he's going to lose so much time. The benefit for him, yes, he's going to be on the fresher tyres, but how on earth he's going to catch up sooner or later? But you can see Max is struggling, though. So maybe if he gets past Max, it could get more difficult from then on. But 26.9 in the first sector. He's struggling a bit more compared to the likes of Tom, that's done a 26.758. Aurelian that's done a 26.758 in the first sector. Max is about 1.5 seconds slower than Stefano in the middle sector. Stefano is going quick. And Stefano, it didn't take too long for him to warm his tyres up. So, again, we may be proving wrong in this situation, but the question is one thing trying to catch up to a driver in these wet conditions. There's another thing trying to get past, as they're both past 14 and 15 now. And we got one of the Aston Martins in, that is Nando, that comes in as well. So we just got Jensen, Volakongen, Deso, Jerome and Stefano who's staying out. I think there's one person I'm almost guaranteed will stay out. You could probably guess who that is. That's Volakongen.
Yeah, you can probably guess he's going to do something alternate, isn't he? And fair play to him. Why not? Why not take the risk? I think Jensen as well here. At this point in the race, surely they've got to stay out now. There's no point coming in. It's too late. Stefano's got great pace. He's straight onto the back of Max, but this isn't like a normal dry race where you can just cruise up to someone and breeze past them. You don't have that DRS advantage. So Stefano's got to get the move done quickly if he wants anything to do with the fight for the podium, the net podium positions in this race. The only saving grace for Stefano is that our net leaders are catching traffic now. Their first driver is Stefano that they've caught. But based on where Stefano came out in all of that, after 5 laps of fresh rubber for the net leaders in this race, Stefano barely lost any time on old tyres, maybe a couple of seconds, but that's about it. So if he could have got those inters to the end of the race, there was no way Stefano was going to get caught by Aurelian, Tom, and Frankie, especially considering that team of drivers now, the net leaders, have been stuck behind Stefano for a lap and a half, and Stefano's got a great car in a straight line and a lot of ERS to play with to help defend. So I think if Stefano could have got those inters to the end, he should have done it, because he was not losing that much track time in terms of lap time, and he had such an advantage on them on track that I don't think it would have mattered even if he'd backed off maybe by a second at the end to save the tyres. So yeah, I'm still perplexed by the strategy call from Stefano. He definitely should have stayed out, in my opinion. He's trying to go for the move on Max at the turn 14 hairpin. Just not close enough. He can't get the traction out of the corner. Can he potentially get the run down into turn 1? Oh, he almost runs straight into the back of the Alfa Romeo midway through the final corner, which kind of scuppers his line a little bit, but he's still got a great run on the back of the Alfa Romeo, who's going to have to take potentially a tight line into 1. But no, Stefano ran out of ERS that time around, and that is already a lap Stefano's potentially wasting as he tries to get up the inside through turn number 2. Has he got the grip to do it? He's going to have to go the long way round coming out of turn number 3. He's put Max on the curb. Max is not going to have a great line through the corner, but again, Stefano hung out to dry on the outside, hasn't got the grip and the traction to pull it off, and he's again still stuck behind Max. This is just time being wasted now for Stefano in this race. He's trying to go the long way round at turn number 6, and again, can't get the move done. Can he get the switch back on the exit? Max gets a little bit wobbly on traction, but again, Max has got an answer. Stefano here being properly held up.
Yep, he is, and that's a bit worrying for Stefano. You could tell he's quicker than Max in a straight line, and Stefano eventually gets the job done, and he's up to 9th place. So this is more like it for FER Stefano, but he's lost all that time trying to get past Max. The gap's now 4 seconds over Frankie.
Yeah, it's a huge gap now, but here comes Aurelian on the back of Stefano as well for P5. Aurelian trying to get the move done. Stefano's parking it in the middle of the road. This is really aggressive defensive driving from Stefano, trying to save himself some points in this race. And Aurelian can't get the move done at the moment. He's not got a lot of ERS to play with either. Stefano's trying to break the toe as well down the back straight. I think he might have enough in a straight line potentially to just hold the Alpine back. Is Aurelian potentially going to go for a dive bomb move from a long way back? He is. He's thinking about it from a long way back. That is a really late dive. Has he pulled it off? I think he has, potentially, on the exit of the corner. That is lovely racing between the two of them. Stefano gave him plenty of space, and Aurelian's got the grip on the exit. That is a brilliant overtake from Aurelian. That is the great thing about the wet. You get to see unorthodox overtakes. And Aurelian dive-bombed him at the hairpin and got it done. Stefano's trying to come back, but he doesn't have enough grip to do it. And here comes Tom now trying to make his way down the inside. This is great racing for his 5th place on the road. Tom should get the move done on Stefano here on fresher tyres, and he does so. Stefano down to 7th, Tom up to 6th. But that was great racing for 5th place.
And this is like with a car that's been on 19-lap-old tyres against drivers that are on fresh tyres going for position. And I like this. I absolutely like the mix of strategy, as I was saying earlier. Aurelian and Tom getting past Stefano. Stefano having no pretty much challenge, and that squabbling could allow the other Stefano to try and close in as well. 2.8 seconds is the gap. So Frankie, he's got to go for it. He's got to go for it, otherwise he's going to lose chunk of time. And you can see where he's losing the time in comparison to everybody else. He's losing about 4 tenths in comparison to the Stefano at the moment. 26.6 Stefano set in the first sector, 27.0 in the last lap was Frankie. So he's just got to go for it, go for the send. Turn 13, is he going to lick the stamp? He's not going to lick the stamp at the moment. We've got another yellow flag, by the way. That is Rowan. That's had an off in at the background. And I think, was it more Borak that had a bit of an issue as well? Not entirely sure, but Rowan has lost a bit of ground already. But here comes, well, I think Stefano made a little bit of mistake there, but Frankie, a bit of banging wheels it looks like. Frankie is pushed off the circuit almost. Frankie's up to 7. Finally, he gets the job done, but he needs to get the job done sooner, because look at this. Stefano is now a second behind this bunch of cars. This has worked perfectly for FER Stefano because of the fact that Frankie took so long to get past OP Stefano. There's so many Stefanos in this lobby.
Yeah, they're all over the place, aren't they? They seem to be multiplying by the week. But yeah, Frankie as well. The problem with that as well is that all of the time he gained on Aurelian and Tom in the early phases of this stint has been completely wiped out by staying behind Stefano for another lap. So all of that time he gained in the early part of this stint completely gone. So he's got to do all that work again. He's got to hope Aurelian and Tom catch Jeroen and this train of cars. But of course, Aurelian's teammate. Jeroen's not going to put up a fight against Aurelian if Aurelian gets there and wants to get the move done. It's more about Desso, whether Desso wants to hold them up and hold on to a podium. Right now, we are talking about a fight for the win between potentially Aurelian and Jensen for this race win. Jensen's still leading the way. We haven't spoken about him yet, but he leads the way. He is the lead driver on this no-stop strategy. He's got 7 laps to go when we cross the line. I'm just going to double check what Jensen's pace is in comparison to Aurelian in clean air. Jensen at the moment is currently in the high 42s, which is not particularly great pace at this point in the race. Aurelian is in the mid 41s. Aurelian is nearly a second and a half a lap faster now than Jensen, but you've also got to think about where Stefano was before his pit stop. Stefano was another 5 seconds up the road from Jensen at this point in the race. So even with that amount of lap time gain, Stefano would not have been caught by this point in the race. So again, I'm still questioning FER Stefano's strategy here. Unless we see Jensen, Bodekongen, Deso, Jeroen and OP Stefano all get punctures by the end of the race, I'm still questioning this strategy. Is here comes FER Stefano on the back of the other Stefano trying to get a move done potentially into turn 1, but he's not got a great run off the final corner. He's not going to be close enough. He's got to think of a different move at a different point in the circuit. Can he potentially think about a move maybe into turn number 6 at the hairpin? He's almost driving into the back of the Aston Martin through turn number 2. He does actually drive into the back of the Aston Martin through turn 2. OP Stefano is struggling so much on these tyres, but just cannot. The other Stefano just can't find a way through without running into the back at the moment. He's going to think about a run into turn 6, but again, Stefano saved up enough ERS to be able to defend quite easily, and FER Stefano thinks about a dive bomb, but nowhere near close enough.
You can see that OP Stefano's tyre management is a lot worse compared to the likes of Jensen up front. He is on 69% in, I believe it's the front tyres. I'm just yeah, it is the front, because I'm looking at the front wing there as well. And you can see he's struggling. Whereas he's managing the rears a little bit much better. But Jensen's tyres, as someone's gone off.
Frankie.
That is Frankie that's gone off. What's happened to him? I was trying to go on board with Jensen to see his tyre wear on my telemetry tool, and Frankie's had an off. And luckily, I don't think he's picked any damage, but Jensen's tyre wear currently, he's now in the 60s, and all of his tyres now. It's going to be a bit of touch and go. Apparently, according to my tool, he's literally got about 1.5 laps to go until he's at puncture territory.
That is a bold risk. It is a bold risk, but if anybody needs to pull the risk off, it is Jensen. Jensen, we've talked about it, has had a torrid season. He's only scored points once this entire season. That was 2 rounds ago in Bahrain. So he needs this. He really needs a good result, as Jensen, to boost his confidence. So if he can get to the end, if he can take the risk and the risk pays off, it is a gamble that has worked. He's got to try the gamble at least and see if it can pay off, especially at his point in the championship. By the way, championship-wise at the moment, it is looking pretty decent for Tom. If Tom can get some more places in this race, he has got a great opportunity of scoring some massive points in comparison to his championship rival in Max, because Max, currently down in 9th, has just been helped by Frankie Spin. By the way, Frankie Spin completely on his own, just spun on his own, trying to catch Tom and Aurelian, and just dropped it coming out of turn 10 and spun the car 360. So not any damage, but that was just over-exuberance from the Alfa Romeo driver. Max, though, still struggling for pace. He's now caught up to the back of OP Stefano, but again, another driver who is struggling to find a way past his Aston Martin. And Max, at the moment, you've got to say, beyond Stefano, with only 5 laps left when we cross the line, barring if nobody gets a puncture, realistically, the best Max can get in this race is 8th. He is nowhere near the drivers in front of him that are on this no-stop strategy. The closest driver to him on a no-stop is Jeroen, and Jeroen is kind of about 8 seconds up the road. So if there's no punctures for any of those in the top 4, Max, realistically, the best he can get in this race is 8th, which is not great at all. And that would be the 3rd time this season he's finished 8th.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he tends to do a lot better in terms of street circuit, apart from Spain, which is not a street circuit, but a lot of people rated Max performance in Spain to be absolutely brilliant. But we got Max, who I think, unsurprisingly, is going to get Stefano in towards the hairpin, or is he? As Stefano cuts around the outside. Stefano's not making this look easy, isn't he? As Jeroen has got past Deso because he's in the pit lane. Stefano's now been passed by Max up into 8th spot. And Stefano's got the fastest lap of this race so far. FBR Stefano, 141, as I wonder, yeah, Deso on fresh inters now. Why now? He could have pitted when everyone else pitted. He's going to lose a chunk of time now by staying out. If you're staying out, you're going to have to stay out now, because otherwise you're going to be in a spot of bother. Unless you can increase the gap a little bit to make sure you can come out and get in the points. It's looking unlikely at the moment. I am looking forward to seeing how this race is going to develop. I have to say, Jensen has been in the 60s for the last few laps, so I have to say he's doing a brilliant job trying to manage his tyres. It was about 1.1 5 laps to go a few laps ago. There's a bit more than that now, so you can tell he's definitely saving his tyres, and you can tell with no assist you are allowed to short shift quite quickly in order to save a bit of tyre life as well. You can go a bit slower as well. He can afford to go slow because the nearest car is Volokongan, who's 2.8 seconds down the road. So if I was him, save a bit of tyre life, try and get to the end, win this race. Don't do what the likes of obviously Desso did in pit. Just take your bed and lie in it, basically. And Tom's still going to score quite good anyway, so you can see how he is. And I think we could start to see, I think, Tom going to the 44s at the moment, and he's been on those tyres for 11 laps, but he has been pushing. But Jensen has been in some clear air for a long time, and that is why he's been managing to save his tyres a little bit more as well. And the tyre temps as well can be quite tricky around this circuit as well, as Harry and Des having a bit of a battle as well. Frankie and Stefano again, and Stefano's in the wall. Has he...
He's got puncture.
Puncture front right, 75%.
Yeah, front right puncture for Stefano, who's obviously come into the pit lane and missed the pit lane entry and hit the wall. He's done a Maldonado with that front right puncture. So Stefano, when he's given up on that strategy, and that is with 4 laps to go. So that is quite early at the end of this race for a puncture on the front right. So yeah, Stefano
not
out of it.
managing his tyres.
No, he's out of it completely. He was defending very hard as well. So, yeah, completely out of it. He is now down to 17th position. So that's going to worry a lot of this top 3 now, what they can do. Aurelian is on the back of his teammate, and knowing Jeroen, he is not going to fight his teammate at all. Aurelian's got a great opportunity at winning this race all of a sudden now. So Jeroen, you would imagine, is not going to fight this one. Tom is dropping back a bit from Aurelian as well. He doesn't seem to have the extra 1% to try and keep up with Aurelian at this point of the race. I think he's just trying to solidify a decent finish. Further down the field, Frankie is re-catching Max at a vast rate of knocks. Is Frankie going to repass Max and take 7th here? It will be very interesting, but based on what we've seen all night, Frankie is not playing the team game. He does not want to give Max any more points than he needs. So Frankie potentially could get this 7th place back off of his teammate. He might go for it. He might salvage something from this race. He's had great pace all race long. Just that mistake has cost him big time. So now it's a case of how quickly can Aurelian get past Jeroen and Volokongan, and can he get after Jensen for the win of this race? It's 3 laps to go when we cross the line. It's going to be all about Volokongan. How much can Volokongan hold Aurelian back? If he can hold Aurelian back for at least a lap, Jensen should win this race if he doesn't get a puncture. So Aurelian, if he wants to win this race, has got to get through Volokongan and Jeroen immediately.
Yeah, he can't do what Frankie did and stay behind OP Stefano with so many laps. And we've already seen how much he's lost due to that as well. So Aurelian can't do that. So he just got to go for the send, take lots of risks as well. He's got the fresher rubber as well. And you can tell his front tyres are really starting to give up the ghost at the moment, because he's been forced to attack for the likes of Jeroen and Volokongan as well. Volokongan's tyre, let's see how he is. Ooh, his fronts are not looking very good at the moment. They're on puncture territory at the moment, but not quite at puncture level at the moment. 70% on the front left, 69% front right. His rears are doing a lot better. Jensen, 71 front left, 69 rear, front right. So it's gonna be touch and go. But I have seen drivers keep their tyres to around about 80%, but we did see, obviously, OP Stefano's tyres go around about 74%. So the question is, can Jensen do it? I have to say, it's an equal tyre life in comparison between Jensen and Volokongan. They've been equally managing their tyres the same. So no matter what happens, I think if one of them gets the puncture first, I think the next lap, the other person will get the puncture. It's about those rivalry at the moment. But let's watch Aurelian then. Lap 27 and 28. We've got 2 laps to go. Can Jensen do enough to avoid a puncture and get this race win? Can Aurelian get past 3 cars in 2 laps and get this race victory? Aurelian's going to try and go around the outside. Jeroen cannot afford to fight Aurelian. He's got to let Aurelian through. But Jeroen knows, because he got his podium last week, that he's also in a fight for the championship more than anything else. But it's all about constructors at the end of the day as well. It's all about helping your teammate with the fresher tyres. If Aurelian gets past Jeroen, surely he can get past Volakonga, he could possibly challenge for Jensen. Now he's in this situation that Jeroen's fighting Aurelian, and all of a sudden this is helping Jensen out massively, and Volakonga. So if I was Jeroen, I would let Aurelian through, because otherwise it's not going to help Aurelian at all.
Yes, it's kind of a bizarre situation where Jeroen is clearly the slower car, but he is fighting tooth and nail to hold on to a podium finish. It's weird. They're not in a championship fight, neither of them. They're kind of fairly similar on points at this point in the season. So Jeroen clearly trying to get one over on his teammate at this point in the championship, trying to hold him back. But surely Aurelian's going to get enough of a run through 13. But the run off the corner's not great. He's not close enough, I don't think, unless Jeroen is really slow in a straight line. But Jeroen's got more ERS to play with than Aurelian. So it wasn't Volakonga that Aurelian had to worry about. It was his own teammate. And now here comes Tom behind as well. Tom has got a great run off the turn 13, the long right-hander. Can he go for a move? He's thinking about the outside line. Jeroen's overcooked the hairpin ever so slightly, but holds on to the line. Tom now trying to find a way past his Jizu teammate to see if he can get onto a shot off the podium. We're on to the final lap. As it stands right now, no puncture. Jensen's got this one in the bag, and what a shock victory that would be. And while they all fight, here comes Tom now onto Aurelian. Tom trying to go down the inside at turn number 1 on Aurelian. Jeroen fighting his teammate so much that Tom's caught this and has capitalised. Tom is going to go through. Aurelian can't fight it. Tom is through and up into 4th, and they are being caught rapidly by FVR Stefano, who's going to try and pick off a few places if he can.
I've got a bit of a theory here. I wonder if Jensen's not fighting for the victory. I wonder if he's just staying out to help his teammate Tom out, who is in 4th place. Tom's got the move. You can see Jensen is losing time on Volakonga. I think Jensen's trying to back this whole field to try and help his teammate Tom. That's my question. I know Jensen may want the victory, but he thinks that Tom has a better shot at fighting this championship. And I think this is what teammates should do. Help each other out. So Tom's got to get past Jeroen and Volakonga, and once he's got past that, Jens can let past Tom, and there we go. Tom can get this race victory. But let's see then. It's going to be harder than it is at the moment. And 75% is Jensen's tyres at the moment. You can see that Jensen is absolutely crawling at this moment in time. I'm not sure. I wonder if he's got damage. No, he is not. Volakonga's even catching up at the moment, which I think just shows how Jensen's backing them off. I'm almost certain Jensen's backing the field off. This could be, I think, some good teamwork at play here at the moment as Tom gets past Jeroen, heading towards the final corner. But who's going to get the race victory? It's still anyone's game. But Jensen has not had a puncher. He has no sign of a puncher all race, as Jensen is going to come across the line with 0 stops and wins the race on 75% tyres. Bravo, and Volakonga, done exactly the same, has got P2. If it was one more lap, Volakonga would have won this race, but it wasn't. And we had a Ferrari 1-3 as well. Jeroen got P4. That was great to see as well. He was another driver that made that 0-stop strategy work. But Jensen, his first victory in PSF1. And we all think he wasn't going to do it. We thought, nah, staying out was not the best decision. And oh, God, his AI has just given himself a puncher, rear left.
Great timing. Could not have come better timing, but wow. That is absolutely brilliant for Jensen. We've been talking about him struggling for the past 2 seasons at least. Jensen's been struggling so much. We were concerned as to how he got into F1 this season at points this season. We thought surely he would have been dropped down to F2, but it's races like this where you can gamble on those strategies where they pay off big time, and Jensen took the gamble. It paid off beautifully. He gets the win. Great result as well for Volakonga, and by far his best result of the season as well. I don't think Volakonga actually would have wanted one more lap, because I think he would have been passed by Tom. Tom was flying onto that pit straight. He just wasn't close enough to get the move done. So I think Volakonga will be happy with second in that situation as well. Aurelian, though, I don't think Aurelian's going to be particularly happy. Aurelian was potentially the favourite to win this race all the way through, and then defensive driving from Jeroen ended up beating his teammate, and Jeroen actually put up less of a fight against Tom than he did his own teammate. So Jeroen ends up 4th, Aurelian 5th from what could have been a likely victory for Aurelian, unfortunately. And what of FVR Stefano? Stefano decided to pit late on, couldn't make up the positions that he did, and he was, of course, 4 seconds up the road from Jensen before his pit stop. So what it could have been for Stefano, potentially, Stefano could have won this race without this pit stop as well. Look at that, the top 6 in the end, separated by less than 2 seconds.
Wow. Can we have more races like this? I said at the beginning of the race now I don't want rain, but I kind of want, as long as it enters, it is absolutely fine. But yes, so we will go through your results then. Jensen, who's had bad luck in Baku, he goes on and wins this race. So we got Volakonga in 7th, Tom in 3rd, Jerome 4th, Aureli in 5th, Stefano 6th, Max very unlucky in the 7th place. That's not going to help in this championship charge because his nearest championship rival, Tom, finished in 3rd today. Now we got Frankie, Markelos and Lamar, your top 10. Morbayak, Carey, Deso, Rowan, Nando, Rick and Stefano, your finishers. And I'll need to check your final order was... those were your final finishers, actually. It was Farbeat, Cazidor and Marlon were your DNFers as well. And by the way, Deso did not do a good job managing his tyres because he also was trying to do a nose stop, but he reached 78%, the same tyre life as Jensen did at the end of the race on lap 23. So Jensen, I think, out of all the runners, as well as Volakongan, doing the best job on saving their tyres compared to everybody else because their tyres seem to drop off that much slower.
Yeah, they definitely did really great tyre management from those two at the front of the field at the very end of that race. And yeah, it goes to show the difference as well with potentially what setups you're running in the race, whether it pays off. Of course, Jensen and Volakonga potentially something more wet-suited, and that helped them. But you could see OP Stefano was a lot faster in a straight line. He clearly had something more tailored to dry conditions, but that killed his tyres. He killed his front tyres. He got a puncture on lap 24. And yeah, just a really rough race for him as well, trying the same strategy. So a lot of people on similar strategies getting very different results. So yeah, a weird race, a really weird race, but a really fun one to watch. And it's great to see a new winner at the top of PSF1 as well, and a driver who's struggled for so many seasons, who's had pace in previous games but made too many mistakes, and then he's come onto this game and he's continued to make the mistakes but not had the pace to go with it. It's been such a struggle the past 2 seasons for Jensen, so this is such a ray of light for his season to see him come forward like this and win a race on such a gamble as well. That is a brilliant performance from Jensen, and one that has been long overdue.
And what is it with Ferraris in PSGL, PSF1 that do zero stop strategies? Legend has done it. You know, Legend's done well in the wet, and so is Jensen, and he's in the Ferrari this season. So if you want to do well in the wet, be in the Ferrari. End of. Tom finished in 3rd, by the way, so that helped. But we have got to speak about Tom in a minute before we go to interviews. But Tom started on pole, finished in 3rd. I think he will be a bit too disappointed, but I think the consolation prize was that Matt scored way less points than him, so I'm sure he won't be too disappointed. And plus, Tom didn't do any practice because he was focusing on other things, which was fair enough on challenges, but he still managed to get P3. I think that's a win in himself for Tom.
Yeah, it's definitely a win in his books. I think he'll maybe kick himself that maybe he didn't try the zero stop, or that he was maybe a bit too cautious early in the stint and didn't push enough on those fresher intermediate tyres. But a win is a win in his book in the championship standings. Max ended up only 7th. Max didn't really have the pace all the way through the race. I think you've got to think actually for Max, weirdly, Max is lucky to end up 7th, isn't he? Because Frankie was a long way up the road in front of him, and he had a lot more pace, his Alfa Romeo teammate. So Max is quite lucky in the sense to get 4 points in that race, and Tom will close in. It's not a huge close in, of course. It would have been a lot better if he'd finished 2nd or 1st, but it is still something. He's back within a race win in terms of gap distance, and there's still 4 rounds to go, so all to play for. And if there's another round like that where Tom can beat Matt convincingly, then it's still on for Tom in this championship. And imagine saying that for Tom after the first 3 rounds of the season, that Tom was fighting tooth and nail for the championship. After the first 3 rounds, I would have thought, you must be off your head. There must be something wrong with you thinking that. But what a turnaround it's been for Tom in these last 5 races.
And speaking of Tom, that leads in very, very nicely into some interviews. So we will, I think both of the Ferraris are waiting for us in the interview room. So we'll bring Tom in first into our booth. So Tom, can you hear us?
Hi, yeah.
Tom, massive well done on another podium. Obviously, you got pole position, you didn't get the win, but a double Ferrari podium, you must be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm so happy for Jensen. And I didn't expect that, to be honest, coming into the race, because I've done no practice, so I peaked in the session and did my PB by 5/10 because I didn't set a single lap in 3 sessions, and then the race was a lot of fun, I can't lie. And Axe really deserved more today, but it's bad luck. And Jensen, obviously, the god of tyres. Fair play.
Yeah, 78% is our final tyre ended up to be as well, which I think I have to say was quite crazy as well. But you got to the final few laps as well. Obviously, you had Aurelian in your sights as well. What do you think made a difference between yourself and Aurelian on the final few laps to try and get past him?
To be honest, I think Aurelian was very focused on winning because he deserved to win today. So he was pushing with everything he had to catch up, and he was using all his battery to catch, whereas I was saving it so that when we caught, I could get past people. So as soon as we caught up to them, he couldn't get past, and so I could make the move. And I also didn't realise in quali, someone said it's raining, so I literally shot out on softs thinking it was about to rain because it looked overcast. And then they said, no, it's in the race. So everyone else probably put higher wings on and stuff. Whereas I stayed with quite low wings. So obviously I had better straight line speed as well. So that helped me get past.
Were you aware of obviously what Jensen's tyres were at the end? Did you think you were able to take advantage if Jensen had a puncher? Because it was a bit touch and go. If it was one more lap, I think Jensen would have got a puncher.
Well, I mean, if there was one more lap, I would have won the race.
Exactly.
Easily because, to be honest, Jensen's tyre wear in general is usually better. And around China, it's phenomenally better, even in the dry. Nothing to do with setup or anything, because we can use the same setup and not be the same. He's built different, and finally came into play today, and he wanted more from quali. He deserved the race win overall because he just missed out in quali because his pace was dead good in practice. And I know he has good tyre wear, and I noticed on literally lap 5 that I had about 3% more than him, or 4%. And I knew at the end of the race that he was going to make it, but I thought it'd be a lot further away, to be honest. His pace fell off a lot in the last lap, and he was only right in front of me at the end. So it's a shame that we didn't get past Stefano earlier. Otherwise, I probably could have won. But I'm still very happy for Jensen.
Were you debating and to do a similar strategy, maybe to stay out as well, or was the one-stop strategy the right thing for you?
Well, on the first couple of laps, I really wanted to do the no-stop, and I knew it would work out. And well, I mean, if we remember Brazil, that one time where I was dominating and Legend took 36 lap inters and beat me, so that was sort of
in the Ferrari
in my head as well. Yeah. So I wanted to do that strategy, but as soon as I worked out the tyre wear, it was not going to be worth it because I would have been in puncture territory. So I wanted to commit to pitting early so that I could do an undercut and have more of a chance of catching up, because that's another mistake I made in Brazil. I stayed out too long on the first stint. But yeah, I committed to the pitting quite early because my tyre wear wasn't very good.
I think that makes sense. I think that's why a few people were contemplating as well. I think due to tyre management as well. So Aidan, any questions for Tom?
Well, congratulations, Tom, on another podium this season. I guess for you, obviously, a third place isn't quite obviously the win, but it's still a good result for you. I guess championship-wise, Max didn't have a particularly strong race today, and you obviously had a much stronger performance. How was that? How are you feeling about the championship going forwards? Because obviously before today you were over a race win behind. You're back under again now. So is it a case of trying really hard to focus on this as well as trying to focus on other things as well going on this week and weeks going forwards?
No. I'll be focusing on challenges 100%, 125%. Like today, I literally I came on at 6 to do 6:30 and did minimal practice because I didn't want to have too much muscle memory of the setup in China. So, yeah, I'll be straight back on Bahrain tomorrow and then be doing Australia or the rest. So no Mexico practice. Hopefully I can turn up on the Monday and
do what you did today.
Dominate. Yeah, it'll be difficult. I'm not focusing on it, but I'm aiming on to have fun on a Monday. But if having fun ends up challenging for the championship, then I'll obviously take it.
And sometimes maybe the fact that you're not doing all the practice and you've got no pressure means that it might actually end up working in your favour. And you seem to like a track that offers up something a little bit different, and that is definitely Mexico. Speaking of Mexico, of course, you've mentioned you're not going to be focusing on Mexico at all. But how do you feel about Mexico as a track in general? Anyway, is it a track you do enjoy, or is it a track that you try and steer clear of whenever you can?
I've won it. I've won Mexico in the past in PSGL F2 and F3, but I haven't done it on this game since like a couple of PSGL seasons ago.
Yeah.
Whereas China I did last week, so I sort of had a little bit of memory of it. So it'll be definitely harder. But as today, like the lack of pressure in quali, it might help, and I might just put a decent lap in. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's all the questions from me. So congratulations on another podium. Great drive from yourself.
Thank you.
So that was Tom that finished in P3. We may as well get our race winner in, our unlikely race winner, who managed to do what Legend did in one of the races a few seasons ago, managed to do the whole race, 0 stops, almost close to a puncher, but never got a puncher. Jensen, first of all, congratulations. What was your first reaction when you crossed the line and won?
Yeah, I'm a bit speechless of that. I didn't think I'd make it to the end after the first couple of laps, but yeah, I looked at the wear and I was estimating about low 80s, so I decided to commit to it. I didn't have anything else to go for, might as well take a risk. And yeah, in the end, it paid off and somehow managed to win the race, which is, unbelievable.
And let's just say the funny thing about it was that your AI managed to get a puncher to the rear left afterwards, which was quite funny. But if it was one more lap, you would have got a puncher. But what do you contemplate? I asked Tom about what was he contemplating on doing the 0 stop. I'm going to ask the opposite for you. Were you contemplating on ever doing the 1 stop?
Not one bit, really. Like, once I started to adapt to like a certain driving style, I couldn't really change my strategy really. Like I was pushing for that one thing and I couldn't start pushing late on, otherwise I pretty much wasted my race, and in the end I probably would have been maybe just outside the points. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't try to box there. But I mean, when the rain appeared, I didn't know what to do really. I was on pretty low pressures as well. I was on the minimum front pressures and the 21 psi rear pressures, which is fairly low for the track, but my setup was really good for the degs. So in the end, it didn't really give me much wear, and of course, smooth driving throughout the race.
Yeah, I was looking at your tyre wear throughout the race, actually, and it looked like it was very, very smooth in general compared to everybody else. I think the ones who stayed out for a bit longer near the back were starting to struggle because obviously they were in traffic. But did the clear air help you a bit once everyone around you pitted?
I don't know. Yeah, I felt more comfortable when I was in the lead, knowing that I was the lead runner on the no stop anyway. But I was fearing for Aurelian and Tom coming through the field because they were catching up very quickly. But I think if they didn't get held up by Jeroen and I think it was Stefano, then I reckon they could have possibly, managed to take the race win. But yeah, luckily for me, they didn't manage to get through.
Yeah, fair enough. And obviously, you're are you doing challenges as well, aren't you?
I'm reserving challenges, so not really.
All right. So are you obviously going to be focusing a lot on PSGL? We haven't spoke much in the commentary box at all, actually. This is the first time we actually get to speak to you. So out the final few rounds, what would you say is a track which you get on well?
I don't know, really. It's I think China was the last race I've really had any opportunity to do anything. But I think Mexico maybe is a good track, but out of what remains, I don't think there's anything I could really get.
Yeah, so that kind of answers what Ada was going to ask at the end there. But Aidan, I'll hand it over to you for questions again.
Well, congratulations, Jensen, on that first win of the season as well. And I think this is the first time I'm speaking to you, if I remember correctly. I'm just looking back at our archive of standings. This is the first time I'm speaking to you since round 2 of season 31. So it's been a while. First of all, obviously...
I didn't even get the interview in that race, I don't think. I got the podium after post-race pen. So it's the first time actually in the interview box in PSGL. So.
Wow.
Of course. I do remember that now. Of course you did, yeah. Blimey. It is, well, long time no speak. I've spoken to you in other leagues, but yeah, first time in PSGL. Well, first of all, congratulations. Massive result from you tonight. I guess you've obviously struggled quite a bit on this game in comparison to 21. It's not been the smoothest of rides on 22 for you. How much of a kind of a relief or a confidence boost is this to just have this win on the board now?
I mean, I would have been happy with even a top 5, because I was expecting a top 5 at least for the pace. And in the rain kind of made it a little bit tricky to decide there, because in the dry I reckon I had the race leading pace as well and possibly could have won either way, but in the end it was differently. Don't know what else to say about it really. There's not really much to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess the other question for me, I was going to ask, Tom mentioned that you were very good at saving your tyres around China. And obviously, even without the zero stop strategy, you still seem to have pretty decent pace anyway tonight. What is it about China that seems to suit your driving style? What is it about China that you like?
I think it's being able to drive. I don't know. It's probably my most consistent track. So I'd be able to put in the best pace in the race, over and over and over again. And of course the setup as well. Each game I'm really good at building the setups for China. And I think I've interpreted this setup today. It was back from, I think, September. It's just set up. It was just a few little tweaks, but made me quicker in qualifying. So that made the difference. And the tyre wear as well was so much better. In the race, I could have gone as early as lap 12 for the undercut.
Yeah, definitely could have, but obviously the no stop for you worked out brilliantly in the end anyway. So, congratulations, Jensen. That is great. It's a great feel good story for the season to see you up here on the top step. So, massive congratulations to you.
Thank you. Cheers for the comms as always.
And cheers for your racing. Congratulations. And we've had a lot of support for Jensen in the chat, by the way, mainly by their own team. But it's great to see that his own team is supporting him very well. And I like that team atmosphere. And I think it just goes to show that I think since him joining Shazoo, even though he's had those bad results, he has a team that he could rely on and get that confidence. Because I think without that team, I don't think he would have been as confident tonight. But it's nice to see a first-time winner in the top division. I think we haven't seen that in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since we've seen that. And usually every time we see a first-time winner in the top division, it's a first-time winner that then goes on to win multiple races after that as well. I mean, namely Max, of course, first-time winner this season,
and
has
Tom.
then won twice. And Tom, yeah, of course, won twice since then. So it's a case of it's a weird one for Jensen, isn't it? Because it's been Jensen's kind of been his own worst enemy for quite a few seasons in that he's had so much pace, but just never the consistency. And finally, in I think his third, maybe fourth season of trying, it's come together for him. It's all come together for him on one night in a really interesting race, a great race as well. So yeah, I'm really happy for Jensen. It's great to see him be able to get that one result on the board. And obviously he's struggled so much this season in particular that it's nice to have that feel-good story. We always seem to get it, don't we? We always seem to get that one random winner in the middle of the season where they're not really in the championship fight, but they spring up a surprise midway through the season. We had Ray 2 seasons ago when he won, I believe, back in Saudi Arabia. When he won then, we had, of course, Louis last year who won in Monaco when dominant fashion, massively dominant win. And now we've had Jensen win in a very unorthodox zero-stop strategy with a very close race at the end. So we always get those one random feel-good stories, and I think we've just got our one tonight in Jensen's win, which is really nice to see.
And we had another good story in Singapore when Marlon got second place when he was trying to manage his tyres as well, and it was all about tyre management. So, hopefully we'll get more good field stories, I think, sooner rather than later, really, because we want to see drivers who are further down the championship potentially get that potential first win, first podium, and I think Jensen was one of them. So fair play as well. Fair play to a few other drivers who did particularly well at this race as well, but I know certain drivers like Markados, for example, really need to step it up. Max has lost some points on Tom. He needs to step it up next week when we head to Mexico. And Mexico is a different track where, believe it or not, it's hard for tyre wear, and also drivers could pick up a lot of penalties.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a telltale story for that one, isn't it? Mexico's not a favourite. It is not a favourite amongst drivers. It is a difficult one, like you say. It's hard on tyres. It's fairly similar to China in a way, isn't it? In the fact that it's got a lot of kind of long radius corners, especially that middle part of the lap, that S section. There's a lot of long radius corners, which is really hard on the front tyres. You've got a lot of traction zones, which is hard on the rear tyres, especially that final sector. Really difficult on the rear tyres as well. So, and on previous games, Mexico was one of the only tracks where you could pull off a two-stop and feasibly get a really good result out of it. That, of course, is not really the case on this game this time around, but it was Mexico and Canada were always the ones where you could do a two-stop and win a race easily. That's obviously not the case anymore, but it just goes to show that Mexico has always been hard on tyres, and it always will be. So, yeah, Mexico will be a very interesting one. I think it will be potentially another one. It's another one like China where the drivers will make all the difference. It's not one where the field is always tightly packed and you're going to see the DRS trains and it's about timing and strategy. This time it's going to be about the driver being able to get the best out of their car on the night, which is going to be interesting. And of course, with challenges starting as well, we're going to see a lot of people going up and down, I think, in Mexico in terms of who's focusing on what. Obviously, we've seen Tom already say that he's going to be focusing fully on challenges this week and obviously the weeks after that as well. So, but I mean, we say that about Tom, but that didn't seem to affect him at all tonight because he was just as strong as he has been all season. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one in Mexico. I'm definitely looking forward to it, even if the drivers maybe themselves aren't quite looking forward to that one.
I'm looking forward to that one. Usually Mexico is always a good one in terms of league racing because I think of the long straight as well, and maybe the first sector in particular. We've seen quite a few crashes in the S's as well, which can be, I think, a bit of a issue. But I'd just like to say before we go, the ones who are racing in challenges this week, it's around Bahrain, I believe. Best of luck as well. We'll be giving you all our 100% support as well. I think PS are racing on Wednesday. I might be wrong. I'll need to double check on that one. I'm sure one of the drivers could tell me what day they're racing on. I'm basing it on what it is last season. But yeah, best of luck to all those drivers taking part in challenges as well. And hopefully they can get some good results in Bahrain. But for PSGL, it is time for us to head off now. Make sure you check out our sponsor, as always, GT Omega. 5% off GT Omega products by using the code PSGL at checkout. The link is in the description. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PremierSimGL. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well by clicking the red button, and also hitting that notification bell as well if you want to stay up to date for all of our streams. Our next streams is on Thursday on the PC division at 7 and 8 o'clock. For Mexico as well, if you want to see how the PC drivers get on as well. The ones that are not taking part in challenges, of course. But for myself and Aidan, we will see you next week. Take care, stay safe, have a good evening, and goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.